Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the day of the video. Darren, how's it going today? Today we're heading off to work, and I'm late. And by late, I mean I'm not early. I'm on time. Wait, I have got, because I spent I was there for a long time yesterday and stuff. I've worked up all of my flexi time, so I don't need to stay any longer, which is good. Which is real good. Which means I'm going in from 9 till 4:30. Just how long I can be in for, which is good, instead of being there from 8:30 till 5, which is what I normally do, which is what I'm used to. So I basically got an hour off today, which I'm well excited about. But what's been going on? Last night I went to bed pretty late because I was working on my server. I've now figured out exactly how to fix that thing where it was downloading the PHP file. So it's now, I did this last night. I literally finished I went to bed at 1, finishing off the server at 12:15, then doing video descriptions and stuff until 1 o'clock. Oh god, I've got hiccups. So that was going on, but I finally nailed it. It's no longer downloading the files as PHP instead. Now I've got one base point. No matter what URL you hit, as long as it goes via jamieped.co.uk, it will end up at one PHP file, which will then decide where to take you from there on. It will then be like, right, okay, so you want this, do you? And then just fraction you off into this direction or this direction or this direction. So I'm then going to have a default. The default controller will take you to the home page. And it'll go to if you could type in /home, that'll point you at yet another controller, which will then decide what to do with the things after the slash. So instead of just going /home and then giving you to a static thingy page, what it will do is it'll take you off to another piece of the program, which is PHP. This is basically an MVC format, kind of. I'm trying to replicate as much of that as possible within PHP, which it's a lot more limited than an MVC, but basically because I'm building the framework up from scratch as opposed to letting however many hundreds of people who work at Microsoft to do it for me. So yeah, if you hit anything that's unrecognized, or if you go to /home, then it will eventually point you to a separate controller which will just handle with the home page. And then if you put something else, it would maybe do so. If you did home / something else, it would potentially do something else at the home page, although I doubt it. But I've got room to expand. All I need to do is add another function onto the PHP file and stuff like that. So that's pretty cool. I'm pretty excited about that, to be honest with you. And that's what I'm going to be doing tonight when I get in. At work, we're going to be doing, we should be finishing off our testing. And it's kind of crazy, the way it's been developed is it just suddenly exists. It suddenly works. You're suddenly nearly finished. It's mental. Because you're developing the tests and stuff, and you're trying to make it past the tests, and you're oh, it's taking forever. And then you kind of get to the end, and it just suddenly it's all there, and it's all working. And it surprises you. It's a bit like when you do a recursive function. You spend so long writing a recursive function for a really complicated algorithm, and then it just kind of writes itself. That's what it feels like. I always find with recursion, I press play expecting it not to work, and then it works. So it's weird. But yeah, we had fun last night doing the old server setup. Tonight I'll probably be doing a little bit more of that. I've got a nice easy dinner to cook, so I can spend a lot of time sitting down and churning it out. Although now I'll be I'll be building up the controller structure, which is marginally fun, which is the fun part really. And then I've got to start building it up. Also, the good thing about the MVC controller thing is I know when it's me attaching it, and then I can access the test version of the site, or I could put /test, although I probably won't put /test. And it's literally a case of I'll build it where the normal homepage will exist, but then just point /test to it instead. And then it's literally just a case of, instead of messing about with a separate domain or a test.jamieped, I can literally just change one line of a if statement that will instead point me and point everyone at the new page instead of the old page, which is pretty cool. Yeah, so that's pretty good. What time is it? So yeah, it makes the development of it really easy. It makes just having a separate test area, really easy. What annoys me, like the blitzsoftware.co.uk isn't like this, it's just like static PHP files. Like I'm relying on the server to tell me what files to dish up and when, stuff like that, and it annoys me. It's not very efficient at all. I want control over that. And the annoying thing is, like, because I haven't set up like a test dot or something with the main Blitz software, if I'm messing about with something, then the very rare chance that someone ever visits my website, then it will show them an error. Whereas now I can very easily have like a / beta home or something, which will just direct me to the thing. And the best thing is, all this is done behind the scenes. You don't see any of this like switching around. You could go to something like / I Love Jamie Ped's daily vlogs, and it would just direct you to the homepage, and you wouldn't know anything about it. It wouldn't even change the URL. I could tell it to change the URL, and I probably will, but yeah, so that's pretty exciting. Otherwise, I'm waiting for the bus. Gonna watch some coach trip on the way up to work. Loving life, mate, loving life. Now I have the structure and stuff. All it takes for me to now do is start designing all of the new pages, and I've used the Jamie Ped site as like a runner, and then like as things get finished and I'm happy with them on Jamie Ped, I'll then translate it into the Blitz software site. They're going to be very similar structured sites, so it's just a case of when it's ready, when it's like ready to rock and roll on the Jamie Ped site, I'll put it live on the Jamie Ped site, test it for a bit, and then rock it over to the blitzsoftware.co.uk site, and that means I can move on to other things as well, which is pretty exciting. Now that all the server stuff is out of the way, I don't need to worry about the server, it's just web dev, which is, to be fair, the boring stuff, but yeah, nothing much you can do about that. And also that means I'm going to be doing stuff like sorting out my the blitzsoftware.co.uk blog. I'm going to be experimenting with like feeding some stuff from WordPress into my main site, things like that. And then as soon as the blitzsoftware.co.uk blog is live, that means I can start updating you there, and I'll have somewhere to update you specifically about my progress with things on my programming tasks, instead of on here and stuff, which gives me more, like if I force myself to do like a once every 2 week update on the blitzsoftware.co.uk blog, which I'm going to develop myself, instead of having a WordPress thing, which I don't really want, I'm going to completely develop it from scratch, like a blogging platform, which is going to be kind of useful. It means I've got more control over it. Like I say, it's all about control. Control freak. So it means I get less stats though, so I don't know how many people have read it and things like that, or at least without, I could program that I guess, but anyway, built-in stuff. Yeah, so I'm going to, as soon as I've built that, then I've got more pressure in order to like continually do things on the blitzsoftware.co.uk thing. Yeah, I'm really excited basically. I can't wait to come home and do it. Right, so I'm walking home now, but that bus I got on, it left at 8:10. No, 8:05. My watch is 5 minutes fast, so it looks like 8:10. 8:05, right? I normally get on the bus between like 1:45 and 1:50. Like, that's when it's being delayed, right? If I would have got on it then, I would have arrived at work at about 9. Yeah, looking dead on 9, essentially. Got on at 8:10, and I got there for like 20 to 9. How? Just, how? Whew. But otherwise though, I was there from then until 4:30, left at 4:30 after a really boring meeting. I was on to a new thing that we're using. They're trying to push this, well no, they are pushing a behaviour driven development, which is just, it's just unit tests. Like, it's just a bigger unit test is what it is. Like, it's kind of cool that, well, I'm not really fully behind it, to be honest. It uses a technology called SpecFlow, which is within the C# stuff, which basically means that you can define tests as things like, given when this, then this, then this, then this, I expect this, essentially. That's really, it's nothing like that. But what I don't understand is, like, the tests that we've been doing, we've written like, we're like the team that's essentially done the most of them, I guess, or we're pretty high up there with the, like, having nice clean ones that are all good and ready to rock and roll and passing. So we were doing that basically today and yesterday, and we did a bit of a demo of it in the meeting. But it's weird because, like, the testers collaborate on writing the spec flow, which is like just English. It's just solid English. Given when this, given this, when this, then, and then we go behind this and then program the tests, and then it's all done automatically. So, like, don't get me wrong, I really like my testers, they're really cool, and they do manual testing and stuff, but this automated testing, like, we're basically doing it, and all it's doing is, because we write the code behind these tests in order to make the tests pass, and while it helps a little bit doing the programming, like, why do we have to do this and unit testing? Because unit testing on its own is enough to, like, take a hell of a lot of time and effort to do. And this is just, it takes so long to do these acceptance tests. And I don't know, I'm not fully behind it. And there's talk about wanting to run them in parallel with actual unit tests. Like, unit tests make sense. Like, make sure it works on its own without any dependencies on anything else. Then theoretically, if you've got, like, the signatures right, it'll all work together. You just have a basic integration test and then it will work fine, right? The acceptance test kind of bridges, I understand its purpose, what it's supposed to do. It kind of bridges the gap between unit tests and actual end-to-end tests, because you can do acceptance tests that are the size of unit tests, and you can do acceptance tests that cover the entire system if you wanted to. But you kind of just have to reprogram the entire thing again. I don't understand. And then there's talks of, like, basically what happens is there's like a big thread, there's like a big project, let's say, and we're currently working in the postal project at the moment. So what happens is, when we there's like a big global hard drive source control system that basically tracks, like, who makes changes and when, etc. So you can go back and revert changes if you need to. Well, each one of those folders, like our folder, the postal folder, is a build. And when we check something into this big cloud thing, what it'll do is it will run our code through a load of style stuff, so it will, like, make sure that you, like, are using the correct naming conventions and things like that. A bit more complicated than that, but it's essentially what it does. Make sure you've commented things, you haven't done anything stupid that way. There's then code analysis, which figures some stuff out. I'm not entirely sure what code analysis does, to be honest with you. And then the .NET compiler is used to run off and make sure there's no logical errors in the, like, compilation errors. And then all the unit tests are run, so that you know that each individual thing is correct and everything works how it did, or how it should. So then theoretically what happens is, if any of one of those things fail, say if a unit test fails, or if any of the other, well, the first three are relatively negligible, you'll pick them up when you're just testing. As with unit tests, to be honest with you, you kind of know it's going to check in fine before you press the check in button. It's not like you're sat crossing your fingers. So you're running through all this stuff. If one of them fails, then you know where the fail is. It will come up and it'll be like, you've misspelt something in a comment, or something ridiculous like that, or a couple of things within code analysis, or this unit test failed, and then you know exactly where the problem is, you can fix it. There's talk of putting the acceptance tests into that cycle. At the moment, what happens is, when you do that check-in thing, that just sits in like this cloud thing, and then every now and again, I think it's every 30 minutes, I think, if there's a green build, it moves off into a different, it becomes a deployment, in which case it goes off into a test environment, and then it's like a couple of run-throughs of the entire system are done. It's called a smoke test. I think I can tell you that. And then at that point, if it fails, it'll fall back out, a ticket will be raised, and then it'll be like, right, okay, figure out why it failed, a load of debug stuff happens. And currently what would happen is, the acceptance tests are run at that point, at deployment point, which is every 30 minutes. So you'll get feedback in an hour, basically. Worst half an hour, best an hour, because it takes half an hour to build and deploy. But there's this talk of putting these acceptance tests within the check-in build scenario system, which is good. It's logical in the sense that you get a better, much faster concept of whether or not something works or not, because you'll be able to look at it and you'll be able to go, right, okay, you'll check it in and it will go through this thing, the acceptance test, which will cover theoretically the area in which you're working, so that it will stop at either end. So say you're working in this little bit here, but you are affected by here and here, it will stretch this stretch. and just make sure, like, run through a couple of scenarios. But then again, it's very easy for me to just literally in 30 minutes I could write you all of those and make them all pass just by asserting true every single time. So anyway, so that's the thing, right? But the difference between acceptance tests and unit tests is acceptance tests rely on things. They rely on things being in place. So let's say you're building something that is reliant on the fact that, like ours, right? We were reliant on the fact that a database existed, right? It was literally a database that we've been creating for the past 4 days. If the acceptance tests needed to be there in order, and needed to pass in order for us to assess and check in our stuff, we wouldn't be able to check in for 4 days because it was reliant on that database. Let's say a database goes down, which has happened in the past. Let's say the whole website goes down for indeterminate reasons. Just things happen. Let's say frickin' Rackspace or whatever it is, or the servers or something just go down. Just literally the site just dead. Then everyone's work can't be checked in. Every build fails. You can't figure out where that error is coming from. You can look at the acceptance test and go, oh, this acceptance test is failing. This one's failing. Why? And then inside there's a little bit where it's dependent on the database. It's not directly obvious. So, yeah, I don't quite get it, to be honest with you, but we are testing it on a very, very low level at the moment. We are basically doing unit tests with acceptance tests. We're not using an entire system just yet. The purpose of me going on in this rant is basically saying your tests should be designed, one, to make sure your system's working, but two, to make sure, especially if it's an automated test, to make sure that you know exactly where the error's gone wrong. Which is why when you're debugging on your computer, you're using an interpreter. It will tell you which line broke and where it broke and why. If you compile it, it will then kind of tell you the same thing. It might not be able to tell you the exact line or exactly where or why or the variable state at the time, but it will tell you where the error is. When you're writing unit tests, and you should write unit tests if you're a developer, or you should be writing some form of testing to make sure that as soon as something goes wrong, you notice it straight away because the unit test fails. Let's say that you're reading something from a file and you're expecting this format. If the file format inside that file changes because of another system that's writing to that file, the unit test will pick up on that and it'll be like, oh, hold on, I was expecting this and I'm not getting this. Why? What I'm saying is you should have your tests so that they run perfectly fine on their own. You don't need anything else. They don't rely on any other part of your system working. Because this was a long time ago when I was having a conversation with one of the Lewises. He set up his tests so that they all kind of used each other. But the problem with that is if this function's wrong, then 50 to 50, for example, tests will just fail. Just all of them fail. Then you've got to figure out where your problem is. If you set up your tests in such a way where you're able to spot exactly where the problem is, then you've done an amazeballs job. Sometimes that's hard. But yeah. But, like, the more and more testing you do, the more it slows you down, which is also another swing inside the computer science industry. And testers and developers are very rarely get on, to be honest with you. They're not best chums, testers and developers. 9 times out of 10, which is really weird. I like the testers. But yeah, that was basically the outcome of our conversations today. Yeah, we wrote a lot of acceptance tests. We talked about how they should be done in a certain way, and it was kind of, I can understand why the testers want it, but it's like, I think it's, especially if it moves into the build cycle and not the deployment cycle, I think it's really going to get in the way of the development cycle, and which is more important. Arguably they're equal. But yeah, that's a bit of a rant, bit of a tangent, but in short, work was good. I'm now home. It's 5:30, which is a good time. Good timings and stuff. And I'm going to make myself some dinner, and I'm going to be jumping on to developing my site, which is going to be good. It's just a simple dinner of chicken and chips tonight because I'm lazy. I'm looking into, just have my dinner, looking into getting a new light bulb, because that is the dimmest light bulb ever. I'm thinking about getting an LED. I wanted Philips Hue ones, the ones you could change the colour of, but I thought against it. But I have news, ladies and gentlemen, because that game, do you remember, near day 1200, 1201 I think, I play tested a game for a company. It was like a party of like the developers, some people like that work for the company and stuff. Basically, we're all playing the game, and I played a bit of it, and it's been announced. So I can tell you what it was. It's called Block and Load, and it's made by who are you made by? God damn it, Jagex. I wanted to say Crytek, but it wasn't. That's Far Cry. Yeah, it's made by the same people who made RuneScape, and I know someone who's doing a placement there, and he was like, "Yo, do you want to do a playtest?" And I'm like, "Fucking YOLO." I couldn't talk about it because it is, well, it was in beta. Well, it is still in beta, but you can sign up for a new beta now. You just go to blockandload.com or Google Block and Load. I guess that will get you there too. But yeah, otherwise, ladies and gentlemen, quick review on the game. Bloody confusing. It's not my kind of game. It's a bit like, although I have only briefly played TF2, Team Fortress 2. It's a bit like Team Fortress 2 in the sense that there are like separate classes, and you basically have to complete objectives against the other team who also have their own set of classes and stuff. But it's also like Minecraft in the sense where you can build boxes up, and you've got to defend like two different things in the game mode I played. You've got to defend like two different bases, and then you can build things around, like, to protect it. You can put up turrets and stuff to defend it, and then you've got to also attack theirs at the same time. It's pretty good. It's confusing. I found it really confusing to start with. Don't start off with the scientist character because it's very confusing. I believe it's free. I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, it's pretty good. Confusing as hell when I first started playing it, but it's pretty good. It's kind of like Minecraft and TF2 rolled into one. Oopsies, and it's time for night. It's time for Betty Buys. It's time for nights. My heating's just kicking up, which means it's time to end this video. It's now 11 o'clock. I've got other days when I'm ending the video at 10. I didn't even realise it was 11 o'clock. I'm currently in the process of building my websites. Well, I say building my websites. I'm building the splash page for germanped.co.uk up until the point where it's actually built. Here's what it is at the moment. It's just literally plain and simple, but I am trying to put designed and created by Blitz Software down here, but the CSS, I haven't done that yet, so I've just commented that out, just so I could show you that. I've had to make a couple of changes in the way that it's redirecting through one file. Theoretically, it should be okay. In theory, it might be hackable. It might be hackable now. You might be able to get to a page without going through my controller, which is a pain, but I don't know how else to fix it. I had an issue with loading images, because every time I tried to load an image, it would just go through the controller, and the controller would be like, lol, here's a text file that says do one. So yeah, get into an infinite loop very easily by that method. But yeah, it's been going well. I was going to have an image on here, but it's not going to work. So yeah, but I've figured out what I was doing wrong with Blitz Software is all of the images are massive images. They are massive, and they're all like designed in such a. In fact, this rings a bell. Yeah, they're all pretty big files. Well, saying that ain't too big. That's quite big. Oh, it's smaller than my freaking icon image. So yeah, most of them are big files, including the background, which means that it's quite slow to download, or more obviously quite slow to upload from my computer, because every time you hit my website, my internet is the thing that's giving it to you. So I've, well, been clever and started using Photoshop to like make everything work better for the web, instead of just giving it a huge JavaScript file, JPEG file. That's like 10 megs big. At the best of times, it's going to take me 2 seconds to upload that. So, rethink, shall we? But yeah, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to build up this splash page, and then I'm going to just work around it. At the moment, it's living at like a test domain. When I'm happy with it, I'll flick the settings, and it will just start loading it from default. And then what I'll do is I'll continue to work on the test domain version, which does mean I didn't consider that. I'm going to continue to work on the test domain version and build the site around it, so that if you go back to it, it might just slowly start building, but it'll only build and only change when I'm happy with the test version. As soon as I'm happy with the way it looks on the test, I'll put it onto live. And yeah, so I'm basically just starting to design it and stuff and starting to develop it, and it's nice doing some programming, kind of. Well, it's not, it's web dev, but I was messing about with some PHP and making sure that the thingy was working earlier. But yeah, it took me a while to figure out what to have as this. My camera doesn't want to focus that thingy, that image there. That was kind of difficult to figure out. So yeah, GG. I didn't know whether to have that or to have something else, but I think that's alright, because obviously Blitz software is the old B and the lightning thing. Whew, yeah, so it's going well, I think. It's taken me a long time. I'm not very good at designing things, basically. CSS is, I detest CSS with an absolute passion. It is the single worst thing ever invented, as far as I'm concerned. So, I'm going to get going, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for watching this video. Tomorrow is Friday. It feels like it should be Friday today, which is really weird. But yeah, tomorrow is Friday, which means that we have one more day at work, and it's another relaxed day, like today was. But I've got to make sure I'm up to speed with everything I need to be up to speed with, because I'm on my own on Monday. So, that's going to be pretty cool. Pretty excited for that. All that responsibility and stuff. Tomorrow we're going to be doing final preparations for the weekend, in which case I'm going to be recording some videos, hence why the microphone is set up, and stuff like that. Should be a good day. Thanks for watching, ladies and gentlemen. I will catch you later.